This video is not so much about what's here as what's not here. Dunn is a small North Carolina town with a population of about 10,000. It's not Memphis. There is no Sun Studio. There is no Graceland. There is a memorial plaque. Now, you have either never heard of Link Wray, or you know his name and you know exactly why that name is so important in rock and roll. He's commonly known as the guy who invented the power chord, but his influence goes way beyond that. In the late 1950s, when white people were just beginning to catch on to rock music, Link Wray was a visionary who experimented with sound, constantly looking for ways to sound rougher, dirtier, and set the tone for decades to come. Classic rock, hard rock, punk, and even metal can trace roots back to Link Wray. Fred Lincoln Wray Jr. was born in 1929 in Dunn. According to Link, his mother was a native of the Shawnee tribe, and throughout his life, he self-identified as an Indian. This was back in a time when the term Indian was commonly used to describe a Native American. Small-town North Carolina of the mid-20th century was not often kind to its indigenous populations, and the Ku Klux Klan would target them as well as African Americans. Link recalled having to hide with his family wherever they could when the Klan was out burning crosses. His mother would put out the lights and cover windows with blankets. Despite the racist behavior they experienced, or possibly to prove themselves in spite of it, many Native Americans signed up for military service, and Link was no exception. He served in the Army in the Korean War from 1950 to 53, and came down with a bad case of tuberculosis which hospitalized him stateside for a year. He had to have one lung removed and was told by his doctor he'd never sing again. But it wasn't his voice that first gained Link Wray attention. It was the sound of his guitar. Ask just about any rock guitarist you know, and they'll tell you they've played the rumble at least once in their life. Hell, I'm not even a musician, and I learned it when I was in high school. Those three chords are unmistakable. That sound is unforgettable. It's one of the most famous instrumental records in all of rock history, and amazingly, this sound was considered so threatening at the time. It was thought that this tough sound would encourage juvenile delinquency and spark teenage gang fights. So even though it had no words, it was banned in radio stations in New York and Boston. To this day, Rumble is the only instrumental song that has ever been banned from the radio in the United States. But this monster hit that took off in 1958 was almost an accident.
Rumble was just a little instrumental I did when I was doing record hops with a TV disc jockey in DC. And we were doing these record hops and a fight broke out, you know, and I started playing instrumental to the fight, you know. And we went into the studio, everybody started, you know, saying, hey man, play this song again. And I didn't know what I was doing because I was just making fun of the fight, you know. And the kids said, hey, play it again. So I said, oh, maybe I've got something here. So we went to a studio on a one track, that's all they had, you know, and recorded it, you know. And then I tried to sell it to all the major labels, and they said it was a piece of crap, you know, they didn't even like it, you know. And then this year, a young girl who had a party, her father, you know, he took it back to New York with him, you know, and so she took it to her daddy. Her daddy happened to be Archie Blyer, you know, of Cadence Records. You know, she said, Dad, what's this? He said, it's just a piece of crap I picked up in D.C. He thought it was crap too, you know. And she said, well, I think this crap is going to be a hit, you know. So he put it out, rumble, scrumble, who cares as long as it's a hit, you know. It was a big record for me, you know.
Link Wray's importance went way beyond Rumble, though. Just take a listen to some of his other classics, like Ace of Spades. Or Rawhide. Or the Swag. These classic recordings were made in D.C., where Link and his band, the Raymen, had relocated. Link's brother Vernon would often play on or produce the records. The label they were signed to, Swan Records, closed in 1967, and Link and Vernon were already becoming disillusioned with the music business. They moved out to a small town in Occoquan, Maryland, and took up recording in a small shack, the Three-Track Shack as it was called because of its 3-track recording system. In 1971, Link Wray released a self-titled album that many consider one of the great rock albums of all time.
There's gonna be a revival tonight. Everybody's gonna jump and shout and throw the gun down. All your sisters and your brothers, bring all of us out into the light.
It was clear from this point on, Link would do things his own way. He embraced his native heritage for the cover art, and the soulful vocals on this album would go on to be covered by several famous artists, most notably the Neville Brothers. This album had no instrumentals. It featured Link's voice front and center.
I had a dream last night while I was laying on my bed, and the whole world.
Not long after this release, Link moved out west and spent much of the 1970s in the Bay Area.
I'm your midnight lover. I'm your midnight man.
He continued to release albums and enjoyed a surging re-interest in his early music in the 1990s.
Folks, Shadow Man is the new album from my next guest, who's here to perform the song Rumble, one of the greatest rock instrumentals of all time. It is a real pleasure to welcome to the show a true guitar legend, Mr. Link Wray.
By this time, he had influenced almost everyone who came after him, including Jimi Hendrix, Neil Young, Pete Townsend, and Iggy Pop. Here's Jimmy Page rocking out with some air guitar to Rumble in It Might Get Loud. Here's Dan Auerbach talking about seeing Link in concert.
And then he just like hit right into Rumble, and just like, it was the loudest guitar I'd ever heard a guitar.
Here's Wayne Kramer of the MC5 contrasting Link's sound with the clean sound of everything that came before him.
Whole different thing.
His music has been a cool go-to for indie films like Pulp Fiction,
Yummy.
and Desperado. When every major figure in rock and roll looks up to someone, that person should probably be revered, right? Which brings us back to the town of Dunn. Link Wray certainly never achieved the level of stardom that Elvis Presley did. He didn't have the kind of hit after hit success, TV or movie stardom that Elvis did. But it could be said that his music is just as fundamental to rock and roll. Every year in the beginning of May, Dunn holds Linkfest, the Link Wray Music Festival. The pandemic of 2020 put that on hold, but hopefully there will be more to come. There will never be a Link Wray Graceland or Paisley Park in Dunn. I know that. But hear me out. The town could lean into the history of its legendary son a bit more. In recent years, a Facebook group worked to get a statue created, and that's been on hold for a while, but maybe that could happen at some point. There has also been talk of possibly painting a large mural on a prominent building downtown somewhere. Could enough memorabilia be collected for a small museum even? Maybe there could be a theme bar. I don't want to tell the good folks of Dunn what to do with their town. I just see an opportunity here. If we celebrate the history, music, and life of Link Wray, it could be good for business, and that could be great for Dunn. I guess the real question here is, how do we want to honor someone who changed the face of music forever? I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Would you like to see more of a memorial to Link Wray in Dunn, North Carolina? We're going to be talking about other famous artists from North Carolina in future videos. So if you want to join that conversation, hit subscribe and ring that notification bell.